Yo, Monday morning, August 6, 2018. Crazy weekend, crazy few days. I took some time off to decompress from it, but now I'm back and I'll be doing some videos this week to discuss some very needed things. And one of those needed things is what's going on in space. A lot of those crazy things are going on right over our heads, from explosions to fireballs in the sky, to talk about Space Force and the secret space program. So that's what we're going to discuss here. Now, before I get into the current events, the atmospheric explosions and anomalies and the Space Force, later in the video, I want to first talk about the secret space program, the black projects, to lay the foundational understanding for the points that I'm going to make later. And to do that, we're going to talk about what's called the TR3B. What is the TR3B? The TR3B is a black triangle that uses various anti-gravity propulsion mechanisms, for lack of a better term. It has been developed and operated by elements within the rogue intelligence agencies, the CIA, Air Force, and then different aerospace contractors, probably Lockheed, I'd imagine. And it's been operated for decades, since the 1970s, okay? So you're probably saying, Jordan, that sounds crazy. Where's the evidence? Everybody always wants evidence, right? Okay, so we're going to first move through photographic evidence of this craft. Let's take a look at it. So going into Google, typing in TR3B under images, you find a lot of CGI photographs, of course, because mis and disinformation is always put out there to muddy the waters. But we do have some real photographs. This one here is real. It was taken in 1992. You can see a big black triangle with 4 lights right there. And this was another real photograph as well. This was taken in 1986 aboard a Space Shuttle Columbia mission, big black triangle. So I'm going to post some links down below where you can take a look at these photographs and a little bit more about the TR3B. This one here by Dr. Michael Sala from Exopolitics, and then a Bibliotheca Pleiades article. And these articles also discuss a man named Ed Fouche. Ed Fouche, or Fouché, was a whistleblower that came out of Area 51. He gave some presentations in the 1990s discussing this craft, discussing the sciences behind it as well. And he stated, along with some others, that there are 2 ways by which this craft mainly operates. There is something called electrogravitics, where you can counteract gravity through the use of high voltage electrostatic charge that is pumped into any kind of crystalline material. So if you have particular kinds of metal, you can literally make them levitate with high voltage electricity, counteract gravity. So that's how this black triangle propels itself, is by electricity counteracting gravity, just making it along in the ether. And then it also utilizes a mass cancellation function. So in the middle of this craft, let's take a look at the photograph again. In the middle, right here, it has a vortexing, counter-rotating liquid mercury that's pressurized and electrified. And when you do that, when you vortex mercury, pressurize it, and electrify it, it creates essentially a plasma bubble. A plasma bubble around the craft that has its essentially own laws of physics. It creates this bubble within space and time that craft particularly operates in. And this is very important because when you zoom the craft along with electrogravitics, you can get the craft going very fast, 50, 100,000 miles an hour. But if it doesn't have that magnetic plasma bubble it's operating in that shields it from inertia, any turn that craft makes, it's going to kill the crew inside. The crew is going to have to deal with all those G-forces, and they're just going to die. So you have to create a magnetic, plasmic, space-time bubble for the craft to operate in to shield it from inertia so the crew doesn't die. And that way, the craft can make any kind of turn, even a right-angle turn, going hundreds of thousands of miles an hour, and everybody in the craft is okay, right? So I know I went through a lot of stuff here. I'm moving very quick, but the TR3B, backtracking here, catching up to speed, is a black budget craft costing billions of dollars in funneled money, laundered money to operate. It's been operated by rogue intelligence agencies and rogue aerospace contractors in secret, kept secret, made in the 1970s using some very amazing scientific principles. Okay, so now let's move on into the next portion of this video, and that's discussing a patent. And I have been aware of this patent now for a little over a year, so I want to discuss it. And this is the patent. It is literally for a triangular spacecraft. It's a real patent. It was approved by the patent office. It has a patent application number here, patent number, and it's on Google Patents. So when looking at this patent, you're probably saying to me, holy crap, are they disclosing the TR-3B right here? You know, is this a legitimate disclosure of all this stuff, of the secret space programs? And I would tell you, I don't think so. I think this patent, I'll tell you what I think about the patent, and then I'll tell you why I think about what I think about the patent. I think this patent is a potential false flag or PSYOP disclosure, half-assed disclosure, if you follow my work and are familiar with me talking about that. Because there's a lot of things in this patent that don't add up, okay? First and foremost, let's look at the application and publication dates right here, 2004 and 2006, right? We mentioned we have photographic evidence and testimonial evidence that this black triangle, black triangles in general, this one particularly called the TR-3B, has been in operation since the 1980s, if not the 70s. So that doesn't add up. Why is the patent for the mid-2000s? Not only that, but let's take a look at the science, the actual substance of the patent. The abstract here, reading it quickly, it says, a spacecraft having a triangular hull with vertical electrostatic line charges, blah, 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 generate a force per volume combining lift and propulsion. So it is stating electrogravitics here, but actually it's not. You see, because there is no mention of gravity itself in this whole patent. He goes through equations and sciences and tries to bring up Einstein's general relativity to explain this all, but it doesn't make any sense because it doesn't actually say how electricity counteracts gravity, right? It doesn't speak about the foundations of it. So it's as if they're trying to use the flimsy mainstream scientific theories, but these esoteric real-world physics, like, combine them, but it's not doing so properly. Again, it's not even talking about gravity. And in this patent, it's also not talking about the plasma component, the magnetic plasma component that I was mentioning earlier, how that mercury creates a bubble in space and time that the craft operates in. So there's a whole lot of science that's left out of this patent. It's posted at a very odd date. And not only that, but let's take a look at this inventor, John St. Clair, right? Because here's the thing. Before we move on, any inventor trying to patent sciences or technologies that are similar to this, say free energy devices or anti-gravity kinds of patents, let's be real right now. There's a few things that happen to them. Either they are killed, or they're put into submission, their warehouse burns down, or death threats, or they're paid off. There are a lot of people take the bribe money, right? Or they try to patent, but their patent gets struck with a national security order, and then they never see it again, okay? So my point here being is, how the hell did somebody get this patent filed and approved and published by the patent office in the first place? Who exactly is John St. Clair? Not only that, but if you actually Google his name, he has a lot of patents to his name, all filed in the early 2000s. And look, magnetic vortex wormhole generator, electric dipole moment propulsion system, more electromagnetic propulsion systems and generators and just all kinds of things that should have got him killed, let's be real, and should have never gotten into the public domain on a patent in the first place. So I was curious as to a little bit more about who this person was, John Quincy St. Clair. I checked out a patent of his. I found an address, a correspondence address, in one of the patent filings to 52 Kings Court in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Searching that address brought me up a Zillow page actually showing some pictures of it. It's basically a beachfront apartment in Puerto Rico. And then I found a LinkedIn for John St. Clair, who is very vague, no photographs, says he's out of Madison, Wisconsin. And it also says he currently works as a hyperspace physicist at the Hyperspace Research Institute. Now, I couldn't find anything about this supposed institute on the internet, or really anything else about John St. Clair. So again, let's backtrack to summarize my points here. We have the TR-3B. It's a secret space program craft that's been in operation for decades. It costs billions of dollars, uses some amazing physics behind it, probably made by rogue intelligence agencies and aerospace companies. We have a patent in the public domain for a triangular spacecraft using some of the same principles that we've heard the TR-3B use, but not all of them. But it was patented after the TR-3B has been in operation, and we have basically a pseudonym or an enigma that's patented it, okay? So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking not only this patent, but all of these amazingly mind-blowing patents here could possibly have been gotten through the patenting process somehow, even by, could it have been a rogue intelligence agency or some like Lockheed Connect? Like, what if this pseudonym here, John Quincy St. Clair, is just some, agency Connect that used an offshore address to file these patents through? Because if the deep state or the rogue intelligence agencies, the cabal, ever needed some kind of thing, some wow event to disclose to the public, they could use these patents, right? It's a card in their back pocket. If something ever blew up so much, like, say, what Q is doing now, or what really goes on in these deep state secret society cult circles, right? This science right here, the science of anti-gravity, or these patents, could be that wow, false flag, half-assed distraction event. You see what I'm saying? And this could just be an example of one. There's always distractions that they just have in their back pocket that they're waiting. One could be Antarctica. They say, oh, wow, we found these ancient civilizations under the ice in Antarctica, or these ancient ruins. They could use that as their disclosure distraction. Or we're always seeing these weird news stories about exoplanets being found, or mysterious fast radio bursts, or like alien megastructures. It's all these things that if they need to roll with one just in case, they could. So that's why I wanted to do this video on this patent that people have been sending me, discuss some of the things behind it, because I don't want to see any kind of false flag disclosure take place, because a lot of people are just unfamiliar with the secret space program and the associated sciences and whatnot. So, hey, I'm somebody that is. I'm going to be shouting it from the rooftops. And this also leads me into the idea of the Space Force, talking about the Space Force. So again, Trump is trying to fast track this sixth branch of the military through the creation process, and he's catching a lot of flack and a lot of resistance. Check out right here. We have a former Air Force secretary saying his Space Force won't work. We have a lot of officials saying his Space Force is just ridiculous. Well, why would they be saying that? Could they be saying that? I'm going to pause it here. Pause it. Offer a question. Inquire. Could they be saying that it won't work? Could they be opposing it because they don't want their shiny toys? They don't want their secrets disclosed. What the Space Force could very well do is offer a public avenue for many of these secret space program sciences and technologies and a lot of the stuff that they've developed in secret. Because trust me, the TR-3B is just one craft, one small component of many things they've been developing. Billions, if not trillions of dollars funneling into these covert projects. Could the Space Force be a way for Trump to gain access to these programs and then work on disclosing the associated R&D, research and developments, right? That's what I'm seeing. That's why he's catching flack opposing it, or from people opposing it. And I think that's why, Trump knows some things. He's a very smart guy. And he does his research. He has his connects that are briefing him on certain things. So I think Trump either knows some things or is aware of a whole lot that he wants to disclose, and the Space Force could very well be doing that. And not only this, but this leads us into talking about the idea of various secret space programs existing at the same time and being engaged in a shadow civil war. We very much know that there's an alliance working to take down the deep state on a political level and within Washington, D.C., and on a militarily level that's more Earth-based, but what about space-based? What about in our atmosphere? Is there a covert, a shadow civil war going on between competing secret space program factions? And this is something I've also speculated about, posited, inquired about, and done some research about for quite a while now. Recently, we've had the Air Force silent on reports of a meteor crash near a base. So a lot of people were wondering about this in a object exploding over a Air Force base called the Thule Air Force Base in Greenland. And it was really weird how the Air Force didn't say anything. They were really mole about it for a week and a half or two until it started leaking out there. So why would the Air Force be so quiet over it, right? Was it actually a meteor crash? Or is this evidence of objects falling from the sky? Could it be weapons platforms? Could it be a secret space war, right? Not only that, but we have bright objects, fireballs falling across the Siberian sky. Very odd and interesting. Even in the article right here, it says people gazing at the fireball watched the videos and have been guessing if that was a meteor or maybe a UFO. I mean, if we're going to go by the definition of UFO, unidentified flying object, in this case, falling object, kind of is a UFO. We don't know what it is. We don't know what's going on in space, right? What I've been outlining to you here is that we do know there's a lot of craft up there that we're not told about. These craft have weapon systems and propulsion systems that are amazing. And yeah, they could very well be going at each other's throats right now. And not only right now, but for months. Last year, I actually had a video where I was talking about this, called it Storming in Space, Evidence of Possible Covert Space War. At this point in time, last November, we were seeing space junk falling over Canada and glows and big flashes of light over Utah, New York, just a lot of weird things going on up there. And I actually got a warning on this video and then like a legal notice. It was weird. YouTube emailed me about somebody filing a legal complaint against my video, and now you can hardly even watch it. You get all these warnings that come up. You can't really search it. You can still watch it. I'll link it down below, see if I can make a card pop up with it, but you can't watch it if you're in certain countries, and there's a lot of restrictions behind it. So that being said, there's a lot of evidence for covert space wars going on, right? We have things falling from the sky, the Air Force being really mum and mole over big-ass explosions going on over their Air Force bases. And mind you, if you know anything about Thule, there's a Thule Air Force base that this reported explosion happened over. But if you also research Thule, you'll come up with a German secret society called the Thule Society. They were the ones that actually financed Hitler into power and helped with the secret space programs during Nazi Germany. Of course, many of the Nazis immigrated into America post-World War II, right? Operation Paperclip. So that's an interesting little connection. Thule Air Force Base, Thule Nazi German Secret Society. Just putting that out there. So we have things falling from the sky, Air Force being silent over explosions over their Air Force bases. Trump is trying to fast-track the Space Force creation for what reason? Well, I've been saying here it could be to disclose things like the TR-3B before any kind of bad guys do, right? We know the Clinton cabal, the Rockefellers, Podesta, they were all very interested in disclosing certain aspects about extraterrestrials and certain aspects about the secret space program. So could the Trump Space Force trying to be fast-tracking these disclosures before the cabal does? I think yes. So that's that for this video, guys. Hope I didn't lose you. I tried to go as quick as I could, but went to some very deep concepts with it all. I think I covered it well. Again, thank you all for tuning in, watching, subscribing, and enjoying my work. And if you think I'm crazy, sorry, but there's all the evidence right there for you. Done.